What would you do for $8,800? Would you turn a blind eye to the mistreatment of an animal? For instance, a dog or a cat. For $8,800, would you beat said defenseless animal? Of course you wouldn't. That would be inhumane. You're better than that, aren't you? Raylaine Knope didn't seem to think that it was all too bad to treat an autistic family member with such disregard, to beat her, to burn her, to do unspeakable things to her. Losing a parent is one of the hardest things a person can go through. The person that raised you, kept you safe, is gone forever. Now imagine how much harder it would be if that parent was your sole caretaker, keeping you fed, clothed, clean. That was the case for Danielle Pierre, a 22-year-old autistic woman who had just lost her mother and caretaker. August 13th, 2015, Danielle went to go live with a distant family member, Raylaine Knope, and her family, right after her mother passed away. Soon after, the abuse started. So just to get the disclaimers out the way, this video deals with the abuse of a autistic person. If you yourself are autistic, or if you know someone that's autistic, then you know that this is a vulnerable group of people. And the way that this young woman is treated is just, oh my goodness, it's so bad. Like, it's mind-boggling. Like, if you guys have heard of the Junko Furuta case, like, it's really kind of akin to that. Obviously, I don't think anybody could touch what those boys, I don't even want to call them boys. They were, we should cover that case. But I don't think anyone at the moment can touch what those young men did to that girl in Japan. We might cover that case some other time. But it definitely gives me the same energy, same vibes, you know? So Raylaine Knope, she's 43 years old, or she was at the time of the incident. Her distant relative, Danielle, went to go live with her after Danielle's mother and sole caretaker passed away. And Raylaine is like the matriarch of this household, it seems. Like, she's the one kind of pulling the strings and controlling everything and encouraging other family members to partake in the abuse. So we're just gonna hop straight into what actually was done to Danielle. So Danielle is this 22-year-old autistic woman. And her autism, if you look at, like, you know, interviews and stuff, like, it's bad enough to the point where she needs assistance in living, but it's not like she's nonverbal or needing total assistance. Like, she is still able to do certain things by herself. She just needs some assistance in her daily life, right?
In a testimony, Pierre forgave them for unforgiving abuse.
In state court, I did not forgive them for what they did, but in federal court, I forgave them.
Why did you feel like it was necessary to forgive him?
For me.
And I'm not sure exactly how far that assistance goes because it wasn't really discussed that much, but she is able to speak to interviewers, tell her story, and just all around, like, give an account as to what happened to her. I'm not really sure what kicked this off. I think these people, especially Raylaine, just had, like, evil inside of her already. She was already kind of abusing other children in her care before Danielle went to go live with her. So we're just gonna hop straight into the abuse that Raylaine inflicted on Danielle. So I have it here. We're gonna read it off because it's a lot. So the abuse allegedly included shooting the victim, Danielle, with a BB gun, holding her hand to a flame, holding her underwater in a hot tub, covering her with the contents from a septic tank. So they literally dumped human waste on her. This next one, personally, I feel like is one of the worst things. Like, it's such a psychological, like, and just, like, disgusting thing to do to a person. They forced her to eat her recently deceased mother's cremated remains from a cereal bowl with milk in one incident. Pause. What? Like I said, you have to already, and I'm saying, like, the abuse started pretty quickly after she entered the home. There was already, like, just something wrong with Raylaine in the family in general, because there are 5 main perpetrators of this incident, but there were other children living in the home at the time. And for at least 5 of these family members to all look around watching this happen and do nothing about it, crazy. There was already evil in that family before Danielle entered, and when she did enter, to them at least, it must have been like the perfect victim. She's a family member, she's being placed in our care, and she's autistic. And maybe to them, in their mind, they're thinking, well, she can't do anything, she can't say anything. Now, on top of all these stuff that I just listed that they did to her, they also ordered her to make sexual advances to men in a sex trafficking scheme outlined by the family on social media. So, I was not able to find much other like information about that specific thing, but it seems like the plan going into this was just like, oh, we're going to beat on her, we're going to do this to her, we're going to abuse and torture her, and then eventually they realized, let's try and make some money off of her. Let's traffic her out, our family member. This is family, by the way. Like, come on. They were already disgusting to begin with, and this just gave them the perfect opportunity to really push the limits. That seems to be the majority of the abuse inflicted on Danielle by Raylaine Knope, but like I said, there were 5 perpetrators, okay? 5 family members in this house that were doing the abusing, okay? So we're going to move on to Bridget Lambert. She's 22, just like Danielle, and this is Raylaine's daughter. So Bridget Lambert, she struck Danielle in the head with a wooden board, causing her to bleed from her head, and in another incident, held Danielle's arm in place so that Terry Knope, Raylaine's husband, could punish Danielle by burning her with a cigarette lighter. Can I even call him a father? Like, this man is genuinely bottom of the barrel. Like, come on. How can you sit there and watch anyone in your house be treated and abused in such a way? But I can't even say I'm surprised, because like I said, like, there were a lot of other children, like there were 4 other children, unnamed, in the house at the time of the abuse, along with the 5 perpetrators, right? And we're gonna get to one of said perpetrators who might actually be a victim in this case, just like Danielle. But on the topic of Terry, along with burning her with a cigarette lighter, he also forced Danielle to use her tongue to clean a spill off the kitchen floor, and smashed her hand with a hammer, fracturing bones. I mean, like, what? I don't know how long Danielle was only with these people for 1 year, not even a full year. It was from, I want to say, August of 2015 to June of 2016. So not even a full year, but I don't know when in the timeline, because there's not really a clear, like, this happened at this date, this happened at this date. It's more of just like a collection of things. I don't know when this happened in the timeline, but how do you go from just being a kind of normal, crappy individual, like not really taking care of your family and just being generally abusive, to breaking bones of someone that just came to live with you after their mother died? That's family, okay? This is your family member. How do you go from just being a regular crappy dude to smashing the hand of a family member whose mother just died, who is autistic? On the topic of Terry Knope being like a regular crappy dude, I want to take that back, because the more I think about it, I'm like, no, actually he was evil too, because literally when his daughter, not Bridget's daughter, but his daughter, came to live with them before Danielle, they literally took her out of school at 14 and had her cooking meth for them. Like, no, actually, I think these people, all of them, sucked beforehand, okay? Truly disturbing in my opinion. Next up we have Jody Lambert. So this is Raylaine's son. So just to recap a little bit, we have Raylaine, the matriarch, main perpetrator, instigator, starter of everything basically. Then we have Bridget, who is Raylaine's daughter, Jody, who is Raylaine's son, and then we have Terry, who is her husband. Okay? Jody Lambert is accused alongside with Terry of throwing that bucket of human waste onto Danielle and laughing as she screamed. Think about it like this, okay? This woman is malnourished. She probably has many open wounds on her body because it's said in court documents that they never took her to the hospital and instead just used glue to glue up her wounds. Imagine, she has open cuts on her body, right? And they throw a bucket of human waste onto her body. From a medical standpoint, that is horrific. That is genuinely horrific. Like, I can only imagine the infection that would ensue immediately after that. Sickening. Absolutely sickening. So, lastly, we have Taylor Knope. So, this is the woman that I was talking about may actually be a victim in this case. So, Taylor, it doesn't seem like actually participated in the abuse. There's no, like, record of her actually, like, inflicting any harm on Danielle. But, I mean, she was there to witness it. But here's the thing, okay? So, Taylor was actually living in a shed outside of the house, the main house, and she was in a sexual relationship with her stepbrother. Taylor is Terry's daughter, but not Raylaine's daughter. So she is a step sibling to Bridget and Jody. Taylor had a sexual relationship with the son, her stepbrother, Jody Lambert, and was also abused, according to her attorneys, by the two parents. They forced her to, as a teen, quit school. I think she was 14 when this happened. They forced her to quit school, cook methamphetamine, live in a shed behind the family's trailer, and stay away from friends. She was forced to wake up at 5 in the morning every morning to begin her daily mandated chores while her stepmother slept. She would not go to sleep again until midnight, so she was forced to wake up early and basically do the chores of the house. And it was at 14 that she began a sexual relationship with Jody, who is 3 years older than her. So 14, 15, 16, 17, 14, 17. Listen, man. As a 17-year-old myself, I could not actually imagine being with someone 3 years younger than me. Like, I think that when we think of age gaps, we have to think about how old the youngest person is, and then think about, like, what age range are these two people in. So let's say it's 25 and 28, right? Not bad. You're in similar stages of your life, whatever. But as a teenager, age gaps are very, very important and very, very gross, in my opinion, because at 14, you're just leaving middle school, okay? You're still a child, for real. At 17, you're about to go to college. You're about to leave the house. You're at a different stage of development in your life, okay? So for a 17-year-old to be attracted to a 14-year-old, creepy. That's creepy. I don't care what anybody says. Seniors and freshmen shouldn't date. That's weird. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care if you have your own little love story. I don't care. That's weird. That's weird, okay? And it seems to me, from what I've read, that she began this relationship with Jody as a sort of, like, protective shield, because before Danielle came into the picture, Taylor was very much at the bottom of the totem pole when it came to the family dynamics, okay? Taylor was basically in Danielle's spot without all of the extra horrific abuse, right? She was waking up early to do all of the family's chores. She was cooking meth for her parents. She had to drop out of school. She couldn't leave the house. She couldn't do anything. So, in that regard, Taylor was definitely a victim. And moreover, when the family was finally found out, after neighbors had reported something weird going on in this household, right? Shout out to those neighbors, for real. These neighbors reported something weird was going on in the household. And so when police came, they arrested all the adults. And at the time, Taylor had turned 18 2 months before, okay? So if this raid had happened 2 months ago, right before she turned 18, Taylor probably would have been seen as a victim because, like I said, there were 4 other children in the household who were not arrested, right? So if the police had came 2 months before they did, then Taylor probably would be seen as a victim and wouldn't have been set alongside the rest of the family as perpetrator. I personally feel like Taylor is just as much as a victim in this case. Obviously, like, what Danielle went through, objectively worse. But if it wasn't for the fact that Danielle came into this household, Taylor would have still been at the bottom of the totem pole. She still would have been cooking meth for her parents, unable to leave the house, unable to talk to friends, talk to anyone from the outside world, and still in a sexual relationship with her stepbrother. So in 2019, Raylaine, the matriarch, was sentenced to 28 years in prison. Bridget, the daughter, was sentenced to 4 years in prison. Terry Knope was also sentenced to 28 years in prison. Jody was sentenced to 10 years in prison, and Taylor was given probation. Anyway, that's all. I just wanted to say I deleted like 5 minutes of me ranting at the end about just like why I've been gone for so long. But all I'll say is that, child, senior year, stressful, and I'm tired. But I think I'm starting to come out of like the, I don't know, senior slump that I've been in, and starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel for real. But on the topic of the case, I did want to say it is kind of crazy that Bridget only got 4 years, even though she very much participated in the abuse. But yeah, I'm back, guys, and I am going to try so incredibly hard to keep a consistent upload schedule. We gotta grow the channel. Otherwise, I'm gonna be in debt for the rest of my life after I go to college. So, stay tuned. Okay, play the outro. What up? Out.